They say the Declaration of Independence was the birth certificate of American freedom, a revolutionary document penned by visionaries who risked everything for liberty. But what if I told you that's only half the story? What if the soaring ideals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness were also a clever mask for something far more self-serving? Today, we are going to peel back the layers of patriotic myth and expose the dark truth behind America's founding document. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're diving deep into the Declaration of Independence. For centuries, it has been celebrated as a universal statement of human rights, a courageous break from tyranny. But the central question we'll be answering today is this: was the Declaration of Independence a genuine cry for universal freedom? Or was it a masterfully crafted legal and political document designed primarily to protect the wealth, power, and class interests of a small, privileged elite? To understand the Declaration, we have to go back to the world of 1776. The American colonies were not a monolith. They were a complex patchwork of societies, economies, and social hierarchies. At the very top were the founding fathers' men like Thomas Jefferson, John Hancock, and Benjamin Franklin. These weren't humble farmers or common laborers. They were, for the most part, the 1% of their time. They were wealthy merchants, powerful lawyers, and most importantly, owners of vast tracts of land, and in many cases, hundreds of enslaved human beings. Their fortunes were deeply intertwined with the colonial economic system, a system that, while profitable, was increasingly being squeezed by British policies. After the 7 Years' War, which ended in 1763, Britain was drowning in debt. To pay it off, Parliament decided to tax the American colonies, which they argued had benefited from the protection of the British military. This led to a series of acts that infuriated the colonial elite. The Stamp Act of 1765, the Townshend Acts of 1767, and the Tea Act of 1773. These weren't just abstract political grievances. These were direct threats to the bottom line of America's most powerful men. The taxes cut into the profits of merchants like John Hancock, who was a notorious smuggler. British restrictions on westward expansion angered land speculators like George Washington, who had invested heavily in land beyond the Appalachian Mountains. The colonists cried, "No taxation without representation." But for the elite, it was also about no interference with our profits. They felt their economic autonomy, the very basis of their wealth and social standing, was under assault. This wasn't just a fight for abstract liberty. It was a fight to maintain and expand their own economic empire, free from British oversight. This is where the story takes a darker turn. As we deconstruct the issue, we uncover the hidden truth that the beautiful language of freedom was carefully deployed to serve a very specific and exclusive agenda. Let's look at the grievances listed in the Declaration itself. While it speaks of universal rights, a significant portion of the document is a long list of economic and political complaints that directly impacted the elite. Jefferson complains that King George III has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. This refers to the customs officials and tax collectors who were cracking down on the profitable smuggling operations that many founders relied on. Another grievance condemns the king for obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners and refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither. This wasn't just about welcoming immigrants. It was about increasing the labor pool and the number of land-buying settlers, which would drive up the value of the vast western territories owned by men like Jefferson and Washington. But the most glaring hypocrisy lies in the phrase, "All men are created equal." Thomas Jefferson, the man who penned these immortal words, was a lifelong enslaver who owned over 600 human beings throughout his life. He saw them not as men endowed with inalienable rights, but as property, as assets to be bought, sold, and exploited. His wealth, his plantation at Monticello, his entire aristocratic lifestyle was built on the brutal foundation of chattel slavery. In his original draft of the Declaration, Jefferson included a passage that condemned King George III for the slave trade, calling it a cruel war against human nature. But this clause was struck out by the Continental Congress. Why? Because the delegates from South Carolina and Georgia, whose economies were entirely dependent on enslaved labor, refused to sign if it was included. The so-called pursuit of happiness for some was directly dependent on the absolute denial of liberty for others. The founders chose unity and the protection of their Southern colleagues, immense wealth over consistency with their own stated ideals. The freedom being declared was, from its very inception, a freedom for white, propertied men. It was a business decision. Furthermore, the Declaration wasn't just a philosophical statement. It was a crucial piece of international propaganda. The colonies desperately needed foreign aid to win a war against the most powerful empire on earth. Specifically, they needed help from France. By framing their rebellion in the universal language of liberty and natural rights ideas, popular among French intellectuals of the Enlightenment, the founders were making a savvy diplomatic pitch. They were rebranding a colonial tax dispute as a world historical struggle for human freedom. This elevated their cause, making it seem worthy of foreign support and investment. The Declaration was, in this sense, a public relations masterstroke, designed to open the doors to French loans, weapons, and military support, which ultimately proved decisive in the war. It was a document written as much for an audience in Paris as it was for an audience in Philadelphia or London. The fight for independence was, in many ways, a hostile takeover of a business enterprise, and the Declaration was its prospectus, designed to attract new investors by promising a moral return alongside a financial one. So, when we look back, the Declaration of Independence is not a simple, pure document. It's a complex tapestry woven with threads of genuine revolutionary idealism, but also with the darker threads of economic self-interest, class preservation, and profound racial hypocrisy. It was a revolutionary act, yes, but it was a revolution led by and for a specific class of men who stood to gain immense power and wealth from severing ties with Britain. The liberty they championed was a liberty that conveniently protected their property, including their human property, and secured their position at the top of a new American hierarchy. The legacy of this dualism is still with us. We live in a nation that preaches equality while grappling with the deep systemic inequalities that were embedded in its very foundation. But this raises a difficult question. Does the fact that the founders' motives were mixed, and in many ways self-serving, diminish the power and importance of the ideals they unleashed upon the world? Can a document born of such profound contradiction still be a genuine force for good? Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you found this exploration into the hidden side of history compelling, please hit the like button, share this video with someone who needs to see it, and be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive.